There are mixed feelings about cell phones in the world of live theater. On one hand, they're a great communication tool for artists to talk to one another and to potential audiences. On the other hand, cell phones can be a distraction for audiences and actors alike. There have been theater professionals that claim that cell phones could bring the end of community theater, and this study is a way to find a correlation between cell phone addiction and the decline of community theater. My name is Abigail Kremm, and my study is the future of community theater amid the epidemic of cell phone addiction. The study begins by looking at what cell phone addiction is and how it affects live theater. Many people have false beliefs that they have control over their cell phone use. A 2014 study by Richardson in the Journal of Learning, Media, and Technology noted that students claim to have control over their cell phone use, but they make the choice to use them during live performances. There's two theories that explain why this isn't necessarily a choice, but an emotional influence, and those two are the fear of missing out and hindered need satisfaction. As defined in a 2016 study by Bayer in the Journal of Computers in Human Behavior, the fear of missing out is an anxiety caused by the idea that other people are having experiences that you are absent from. Bayer's study found a positive correlation between fear of missing out and an increased use in apps like Facebook. Hindered need satisfaction, on the other hand, that comes from social determination theory. Usman's 2014 study from the Journal of Social and Behavioral Sciences explains this theory as when a person's basic psychological needs are satisfied, their psychological health will rise, and if they do not meet those needs or they're hindered, they'll try to compensate for it. A study in 2019 by Hoffman in the Journal of Computer-Mediated Communication found that participants in his study reported that the social pressure hindered users from completing media-related goals, but the participants reported feeling need satisfaction. This means that individuals will use their phones for prolonged spans of time, receiving emotional compensation for not really being able to complete the task that they are trying to complete. Back to Richardson's 2014 study, it noted that students who were tempted to use their phone during performances had a criteria for whether they should stay engaged with the performance or use their phone. They said that if the show was not able to keep them engaged, then they had no reason not to use their phones. This is where the term addiction comes into play. The shifting of blame and the use of criteria to justify their behavior shows the huge part of addictive behaviors. According to a 1988 article by Becker in the Journal of Political Economy, the theory of rational addiction states that addicts will rationalize the use of their addiction. To prove that cell phones have become an addiction, a 2014 study by Roberts in the Journal of Behavioral Addictions followed this theory of addiction and found that most college-age adults are addicted to their phones. They spend an average of 7 hours per day on their cell phones. Richardson's study alone demonstrated how cell phones provide an obstacle for students to give their undivided attention to live theater performances. Drawing inspiration from that study, this study looks at the epidemic of cell phone addiction specifically in the Youngstown area. This study looked at cell phone addiction and its correlation to community theater attendance and attentiveness to test the hypothesis that the epidemic of cell phone addiction is leading community theaters to struggle. My study utilized a self-reporting survey that was distributed through a mix of social media and personal messaging. The survey asked a series of questions addressing respondents' cell phone habits personally and during their time at the theater, and their opinions on cell phone use in the theater. Questions about cell phone use were borrowed from Richardson's 2014 study and Roberts' 2014 study on cell phone use habits. Questions about cell phone use in the theater were borrowed from Campbell's 2008 study about cell phone use in public spaces. When all the responses were received, there were 147 responses in all. 56 of these respondents claimed to have been to the theater in the last 8 months. 37 respondents claimed to attend community theater in Youngstown, and 24 respondents claimed to spend over 9 hours per day on their cell phones. After the collection and analysis of the data, it was concluded that the hypothesis that cell phone addiction is leading community theater to struggle could be accepted, not because of decreased attendance, but because of a significantly decreased attentiveness. The results of the study showed that 16% of people who visit the theater monthly or more often have a phone addiction, while 26% of people who visited the theater only once or twice had a phone addiction. With only a 10% difference, this deviation wasn't significant enough to be conclusive. On the other hand, the survey also tested respondents' actual cell phone use in the theater compared to their feelings about how other people use cell phones in the theater. 43% of respondents reported their own problematic phone use in the theater, while 41% of respondents reported being bothered by other people's problematic phone use in the theater. The overlap between these two groups of respondents was only 13%. So although attendance is not directly affected to cell phone use, the actual attentiveness in the theater is significantly effective. These are large percentages of theater attendants that are either distracted by their phones or distracted by others on their phones during performances. Being able to distinguish the issue of attendance versus attentiveness allows the solution for the problem to be more targeted. According to an interview with Diane Pullis of the American Repertory Theater, she sees the shift in audience attention as an opportunity to expand current possibilities of live theater to become more engaging. Of course, within the scope of community theater, there are a few less possibilities, but knowing that the audience hasn't decreased allows the focus to go to the audience that's already there. For future research, it may be worth conducting an experiment to test possible changes in community theaters and how they keep their audience engaged, such as a few performances where you ban cell phones completely in the theater, or having new formats of interactive shows. By testing attendance and attentiveness in community theater performances, in relation to cell phone addiction, we were able to accept the hypothesis that cell phone addiction is leading the community theaters to struggle. When looking to the future, we can use this information to target the efforts in re-engaging audiences in innovative ways.